Hi folks, and welcome to today's, or this evening's, depending on when you're watching it, class on super sunflowers. And today we are going to be using the Celebrate Sunflowers stamp set from the current annual catalogue, along with a number of other key items. So in your kit, depending on what you already owned in your craft room, you will need the stamp set. Then you will need the water painters or some aqua painters of some description. You will need a StazOn ink pad because we are watercolouring, so you need an alcoholic ink. And then the Stampin' Up colours that we are using are Bumblebee, Old Olive and Soft Suede. The stamps that I've got out ready mounted on my blocks are the large sunflower, the smaller sunflower, and the Let's Celebrate You cards. Now, it's likely that I filmed this video in two parts, just because of things that I had going on at home. That sounds wrong. No, just because it was easier for me to film it in two parts. So for this first part, I'm going to show you how to make the split cards, and then I'll talk through the cards in the card pack, and we're going to do 4 cards using 2 images that we're going to split. So let's go through the pack that you got. So you should have had in soft suede 2 standard card bases that have scored down the middle in soft suede, and then one that's been scored twice to do a gatefold card like this. And you should receive exactly the same, but in Bumblebee. So 2 where it's scored down the middle, and then another one that's a gatefold card. You should have 6 envelopes. And then this is where it gets confusing. I've put in 4 pieces of thick whisper white, which will be more than enough in A5 size. And then 1 piece of thin whisper white, which should smoother, standard whisper white. It should feel thinner and smoother texture. And I'll explain. So 2 of these are going to be used for the split cards that we're going to do first, which I just shared with you. And then the others are going to be for the gatefold cards, and you'll have more than you need. I think I've really put you a spare one in case you have any troubles. Now you should also have some die cut shapes that I've cut out for you, a variety of different ones depending on how you want to layer them up. Evan cut these out for me, so you should have a couple of Bumblebee ones and soft suede ones and some white ones, and then you should have your ribbon in a little, I've kept mine on the reel, but you should have your ribbon in a little loop thing that I've stuck together for you. Okay, so we're going to do these ones last. Now, I should have been in touch with you before this class and asked you to make a mask, not a face mask. They're the masks that we're all talking about at the minute. So what I'm going to do, I do not envisage that you will get all of these cards made this evening, and that isn't the idea. I don't want you to rush. You can pause this. The reason why I pre-record this is because if I did these as lives and to help people catch up, I'd have to be on YouTube for like 2 to 3 hours, and that's not going to work in sort of my household. So I've pre-recorded these so that you can pause the video, get where you need to be, no panic, and then carry on, and you can rewind, and so on. So we are in effect doing 4 cards that are exactly the same almost, apart from the flowers are at another side. Oh, you should also have in your kit the embossing folder, the tasteful, oh, I always say the wrong name, the nice texture one. this one. So I am only going to do one of these. Okay, well, one stamped image, 2 cards. I would suggest that maybe you just do the 2 cards rather than the 4, and just really take your time. What I'm trying to do with a lot of my classes is I'm trying to double up on the cards that you've got, so you can have a go at making some at a later date, or you can have a go at doing some of your own designs. So rather than just, I could have just done 3 cards in this class. I could have just done 2 and a gatefold in one colour, but I've doubled it up so you can experiment and have a go at doing maybe something different. You know, you could turn the cards around and have them that way. So it's entirely up to you. I've also, just as a point out, these splats are from another stamp set called Forever Fern, if you're wanting that effect. Okay, so I should have been in touch with you and told you how to make a mask. Now this has dried out. I made this with some paper, yep, and I stamped the big sunflower and I cut it right close to the image, right to the edge. I've cut it, and then what I'm going to do is pop a little bit of glue. Is this my one that I've left with the lid off? Right. I'm going to pop a tiny bit of glue on it. There, oh, not a tiny bit, it's gone a bit bananas. So I need to get that off with something. I've got a bit of spare card somewhere. Bear with. Take a bit of that off and use that for something else. And what you can do is, you're getting a bit dirty here. Dab it off. Okay, so it's sticky, but not, oh, it's not going to ruin. So it's just tacky, yeah? And what we're going to do is, we're going to take one of our A5 pieces of thick whisper white. Yep. And we're going to take our Stays On ink pad. Now with this, please put the lid on as soon as you've used it, because it's alcoholic, it can dry out really quickly and evaporate. So now the pad is a lot smaller than the stamp, so it's best to take the pad to the stamp and tap like that. But actually I do a bit of a twist. So yeah, this does dry out really quickly, this ink pad, so you must put the lid on quickly afterwards. And as you can see, I'm giving it a lot of love. Get that lid back on, don't throw that away, that little plastic thing. And then I'm going to stamp that, I'm going to eyeball it. There's no, well, it doesn't matter which way up you do it, but I'm going to I want it bang in the middle, well, not bang, but you know, looking with my eye in the middle of the piece of card, like that. Okay, and that's all we're doing with the big stamp for this card. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop my mask over the top, and you just have to twist it and work out. There we go. I'm just going to cover that up like that, and then I'm going to take the smaller sunflower and I'm going to get this effect where I'm going to stamp over it so you don't see a gap. Now this stamp is smaller, so you could take your stamp to the ink pad on this one, yeah? And you can see here where I've done it before. Now this is up to you. I'm probably going to do one there and one to fill that gap there. So one there like that. Now don't remove it, don't touch anything. And then I'm going to do, just make sure you don't overlap the 2 smaller ones. One to fill that gap. There like that, okay? And then what I'm going to do for the other one is I'm going to do one at this side here. So I'm sort of doing the opposite. So if you imagine this is a clock, I'm doing one at 10 past, yeah, and one at 20 to, Hope that makes sense. And then I'm just going to do another one down here just to fill this gap here. But again, I'm going to be really careful not to overlap these two. That saves us doing a mask for the smaller one, yeah? Okay, so replace the lid on the stays on. Just got a bit of debris. And then you can remove the mask. And there, ta-da! We should have a design like that, okay? Now, I think it's personally probably better to cut this now down before we start watercolouring, okay? Now, this is exactly the same size as your card base. Your card bases, and we don't want that, do we? We want there to be a little border. So let me go through and I will type these. I am watching this with you on Tuesday evening. So I'm going to cut this down. This measurement across here is 21 centimetres. So I am going to put it in the trimmer at 10.5 and cut down the middle. And then I have that effect, yep. Okay. And then I'm going to turn this one. This measurement here is 14.8. I'm just going to take it down to 14.3. It doesn't matter which edge you take it off, but because there's a little bit of white there, I'm going to take it from the top there. So this is 14.3. Okay. And then we just need to take this, which was 10.5, down to 10. And I will type these measurements up. Okay. So we've basically taken 0.5 centimetre off two sides. And then we will repeat that. So I'm going to take off that bit where there's a gap. So I'm going to take it down to 14.3. And then I'm going to take this down to 10. Now, I could have cut these pieces. I could have cut them smaller for you before the class. But I'm very much of the opinion if I did all that for you, then you wouldn't learn the measurements. And, you know, I am trying to create independent crafters. Because we're crafting at home on our own most of the time. I'm just going to have a cup of tea so you can get caught up with your cutting. And as I mentioned, you can pause anytime, go make a drink, go to the loo, and then catch up. Okay. So I'm going to do some watercolouring now, and I will colour both of them in. So I'm going to start with the centre. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze the lid and get some ink here in the lid. Now, if you've got your water pens from me, I hope you filled them up already. We were not going to use the really wide one, so you can put that to one side. And just make sure that if you have been having a go with them before the class, that you've not got any colour already on. So I'm going to take a little bit from here and I'm going to squeeze just to get the water flowing a little bit. Oh, it's raining now, it's chucking it down. And when I filmed this, Craig was out on the bike, so I don't know where he is. And he hasn't taken his... He hasn't taken his cagoule, I don't think, today. So I might end up cutting this video short if I get a phone call. So I'm just colouring these in, just sort of circular motions. Do you know, I don't overthink this watercolouring, because I think all the best watercolours and colour are a bit messy. Oh, there's someone at the door, just bear with me. I think that could be my next delivery. yep, that was a little next delivery. It's a present for the boy next door, who is going to be 3 tomorrow. So I've got him a present. Well, we've got him a present. So yeah, so what I was saying is, don't overthink the watercolouring. You know, I love Monet and it's a bit messy. I like that. So while I've got the brown, the soft suede one out, I will colour the other card. Looks like it was just a really quick shower that. It's stopped now. Hope so. I'll be like a drowned rat. So with the whenever you're colouring, I always think you need to sort of move quite quickly. I don't sort of dither about in one place. So that's the soft suede done. We can shut that back up now. Just have another drink. Check that my camera is all in position. Now, I'm going to use the same brush for the bumblebee, but make sure you've got some, either use your paper, scrap paper. I'm just gonna get rid of the brown. Rub it on my hand. Oh, I look like I've got a fake tan if I use that that soft suede. And then I'm going to start with a bumblebee. Okay, and again, I'm just going to work quite fast, really. When I'm doing colouring, and I don't even mind if it goes over the edge. I like the look. It's at the end of the day, we are making a handmade card. It's not a factory produced product. And sometimes I, on purpose, don't go right to the edge, because if you look at flowers, the colours, the petals, everyone's different. Every flower in the garden is different. That's very philosophical. So I'm not doing it, I'm not overthinking it. I'm just going for, you could use a smaller brush now with this smaller flower. Now I've probably got to the end of using that ink, so close it up again. It's like an that sort of action, and then I've got some more ink in here. Now if you don't like doing this in your pad, you could always do it on a piece of acetate, or you could sort of dab some ink onto like a spare clear block and take it from a piece of plastic or something. You know, tap your ink pad into it, onto it. I know a lot of people don't like to mess the lids of the ink pads up, but I've never had a problem with it affecting the quality of the ink pad or anything in the future. Right. So that one's nice because that's gone a bit darker than the other one. Now, because it's quite dark at the moment, if you want, you could just go back over some of the lines there. And, you know, if you want to, you can take it up a level and you know, go over those little lines again. A lot of the stamps that we do help us with the lines, with the shading and the colouring, but I'm not an artist. I was rubbish in art at school, but I just think, right, well, Stampin' Up have drawn those lines for me there for a reason, so I'm going to use those lines and I'm going to go over them with a, you know, shade them up a bit. Let the Stampin' Up artists do the work for me, and then I'll just try and make their work look good. Okay, so what I've done there, I'd coloured it quite pale, and then I've gone back over it just randomly with a little bit more bumblebee, yeah? And then I'm going to colour the other one. I thought I might need some more water in my But I'm all good, I'm all good. I'm using thick Whisper White for this because I just think it absorbs the water a little bit better. We do have a watercolour paper, which is, it's not as cost effective. So I experimented with this and found that it worked fine with the thick Whisper White. So I had no need for the watercolour paper. And because we're going to emboss these, if desired, then we're better off with this card than the watercolour paper. So we've already nearly got 2 cards coloured already. You could, this smaller one, I probably, if I'm being honest, you may be best using a smaller. My brush is a bit thick for doing this one. So if you've got the Stampin' Up ones from me, I would probably switch to the thinner one. Okay, so there I've done with the bumblebee. And then I'm going to switch to the thinner one for the old olive. So I'll bring that one back. That's quite dark. So if you want it to go lighter, just sort of dab some ink off or squeeze a little bit more water through. Okay. Now, whilst that's drying, we do need to do our sentiment before we emboss as well. And I've got that ready, and it's Let's Celebrate You. I'm going to use soft suede. Do you know? Yeah, I will, because that's what I've done. I was going to mix it up and use Bumblebee. Now, this is quite a long sentiment, so it's likely that the only place it's going to fit is in there, and this is why we didn't come out too far with our flowers. Now, if you've come over too far with your smaller flower and you can't fit it in, then turn your card around, have it going the other way, and do it there or here, yeah? Or you could have it that way and do it here. And if you've got any spare ribbon, you could even tie a bit of ribbon up. But hopefully we've got enough room. Now I always do a little practice. There we go. Light taps because it's quite a juicy ink pad. There we go. And then I'm going to stamp that one here. Now, we do need to do the embossing now. I'm not sure how dry. It's only damp. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use the Forever Fern, but I'm going to show you another trick that hopefully might work. So this is only if you've got this stamp set. Please don't feel you have to do this. This is from another stamp set, Forever Fern, and I'm going to do some little splats. Oh man, I've got a... So we're going to have one over there. Oh, I always do it. So you can do these and not re-ink, and you can get 2 or 3 good sort of stamps out of those. Now, I'm going to try, I've not done this with these new water brushes, but this is a little trick that if you haven't got that stamp, I'm going to see if this works. This is a trick that Shelley Gardner, the original founder of Stampin' Up, original CEO and founder of Stampin' Up, once demonstrated at an event many, many years ago when I first started with Stampin' Up. So what I've done is I've took the soft suede again, and I've really got the ink going, and it's quite wet. Can you see? Now this is not for the faint-hearted or non-messy people who don't like mess might not like this. But what you can do is you can do some flicking. Can you see how it's landing on my? I'm just like tapping the pen. So hold it over, and you could get big splodges with this, but it's just a way of showing you how to do like a splodgy look. Now look at that. That does look quite artistic. I literally tapped that once, and again twice, 3 times a lady. Look, look. So this is another way of showing you how to vintage up your card. Have a practice without the stamp. All right. So a little extra technique in there for you. Obviously this one, it's a lot more condensed because we've stamped it. This one's a little bit more random. I actually prefer the one where I've flicked the water brush. So I'm going to pop the lid back on those brushes because I've nearly got 2 cards done. Please don't panic if you've not got 2 cards done. Let me just check, because we've not even done half an hour yet. I'm just going to take my die cutting machine. Probably can't fit. I'll just zoomed out a little bit. Obviously everybody will have a different kind of machine, so you use, you know, what you've got. But basically you want to pop the stamped image in with the Stampin' Up logo facing up. Line it up. Now this is because it's a random pattern, this, it doesn't matter if it's, you do have to sort of get it straight as you can, but I think, I'm just wondering now, because this is a new folder, so using with standard embossing folders, oh, it's a 3D, so I need platform 1 and platform 4, so this should work. There we go. And there we have that effect. I probably would have, it's worked out all right with the splats there. If you didn't have the stamp, then at least you can still get some little splatters on your card if that's what you want. So I'm going to do the other one. Let's zoom back in. Oops. There we go. So I've got these 2 done. And you can take either your soft suede or your bumblebee card bases. I'll go for bumblebee for this one. And just stick them down. And they're done. 2 cards done. And these ones are great because you don't need a large letter stamp. They can go in the post. Now, it's just something to point out. It depends on what machine you're using, but when you use a folder, because you put in, I've cut these pieces so that they're 1/2 centimetre exactly difference, but when you put in an embossing folder through, you sort of, because you're creating the embossed pattern, it can reduce the length of the white piece by about 1 millimetre because you're squeezing it into a different position almost. So you may find that you may get, it might look a bit, your layers may look like it's a bit deeper there, so you could always trim a little bit off if that's how it's worked. But I can't cut those. It does depend on people's machines, I think, how much it squeezes the card through. But this isn't a particularly deep design, so you wouldn't notice it as much, but in a deep design it can manipulate the card and squeeze it into like slightly shorter. So I've just stuck those 2 on there, and there we have our 2 split cards. So I think that they were fairly easy cards for you. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to, hopefully this will be seamless, but when I film this, I'm going to have a little break now, and then I'm going to come back and do the gatefold cards. But hopefully I should have been able to just fuse the videos together, so there may not be much of a gap. So, but again, you can pause and catch up, but I don't expect you to have done 4 cards whatsoever. But if you want to pause and do the other 2 cards, then by all means do that, and then I'll see you in a moment for the gatefold cards. See you soon. Hello and welcome back. If I've done this correctly, there shouldn't have really even been a gap in these videos. But I actually filmed these on 2 separate days. So we are now going to continue, having done our split sunflower cards, we're going to make a gatefold card. Now you've got the stuff to make 2. I am only going to make 1. I'm going to do a bumblebee one. So I'm going to show you how to do that. You should have a selection of the die cuts in your packs. I can't honestly remember how many Evan cut out for you, but I think you've got more than you need. So you've got a little bit of flexibility there to do what you like with yours. So these 2 are in effect the same card, but on one of them I've done the speckles from the Forever Fern stamp set, but you could do the ink pad flicking thing with the water brush. And then on this one, I've done the running through the Big Shot, and I'm probably going to do this design running through the Big Shot, but on this colour card. So let's get started. So what you will need for this card is one of the gatefold cards that I've scored for you. Now, if you want the measurements to do this again, this card, and I will type this up when I'm watching this with you, measures 21. So this is the width of an A4. If it was sort of portrait, it measures 21 by 14.8 centimetres. These scores are at 5.25 from each side, and then you fold it and then meet in the middle. Okay. So you need one of these to make it. You also need one of your A5 thick Whisper Whites, and then you need the A5 thin Whisper White, and the thin one is what we're going to use for inside. You also need some scrap thick Whisper White, which you've not got scrap, you've got a full piece of A5, so you'll in effect need 2 pieces of the thick A5, but one of them is for doing these parts on both of the cards. I'm only going to make 1, and then the other piece of A5 is for making the flowers, cutting out the extra flowers just to decorate it a little bit. I mean, you don't have to do that, it's busy enough as it is, but it's entirely up to you. Okay, so I've got my 1 piece of A5 that I'm going to use for the front. Now what I'm going to do first to make things easier is I'm going to cut this down. This measurement's 21. I'm going to cut it down to 10.5. So one is for one card, one's for the other. I'm going to put one to one side. And I don't think I did this very successfully on this card, but I did it better on this one. And we're not going to use the big sunflower, by the way. You can put that one away now if you want to. We're just using the smaller sunflower. And the reason why I've cut this down to work with is because I want to make sure that I've got some sunflowers going down the middle so I can split them across the card, because I think it looks a lot more interesting, whereas on this one they're either all down one side or they're either all down the other. So we're getting our stays on, and I'm actually going to start by doing one in the middle like that, and then what I like to do is rotate the image a little bit. You're going to remember that the middle part in here is going to be sort of covered up a bit. So we'll have one there. There we go. Now you can, I think it'd be nice to have a little bit peeping out in that corner there. I think if you take it away from, I think that's enough, because we are going to be trimming a bit off. I think that's enough. Okay. So remember to put the lid back on your stays on. Now, also actually, if you want to stamp, you don't have to do this. It might, I'm going to take another piece of A5 that you've got spare, thick one, and I'm going to stamp a couple of extra sunflowers. You may not need these. These are to stick on the front, but you may not need these. So you should have plenty of card. You should have excess card for what you need. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do now is actually trim this down before I start colouring it in, so that I'm not doing any extra colouring than I need to do, if that makes sense. So this measures at the top, it measures 10.5. Remember, we cut that down in half. So I'm going to cut it between 5.2 and 5.3. So 5.25, I'm going to cut it right down the middle. Now, there's an easy way of doing this, but I want to use that middle piece. Okay, so I've now got two split pieces. And then I'm going to take some off each side, okay? Your piece actually needs to measure 4.5. So I'm going to take mine off the right-hand side on this piece. I'm going to take it down to 4.5. I'm just going to measure. Now, I think I'm just going to check this because I made this one quite some time ago. Yeah. I'm going to take this down to 14.2. We can always trim it again, but we can't add on. And I'm going to take it off the bottom. Okay. So now that measures 4.5 by 14.2. I'm going to take the left-hand piece, but this time I'm actually going to take the excess from the left because I still want these to match up. Yeah, they're going to match up like that. All right, so flip it round and take it down to 4.5. Yep. So if we check, look, they're still matching up. Yeah. And the reason why I've done it this way is because it's easier to work out where the middle is when you're stamping than guess and then cut it down. This is just my way of doing it. And then I'm going to cut the bottom down to 14.2. And I will put all these measurements in the comments. And, you know, it's useful to jot things like this down if you keep a little book or something like that in your craft room or your craft kit, just to jot down useful measurements and things. Right, so we've now got our 2 pieces. Okay. And we're going to go back to some colouring. Now, I would use the thinner one on this because we're using the smaller image. So I think the last colour I coloured with was green. Oh no, it looks like it was a soft suede. So that's all good. So we're just going to really casually and fairly quickly, you don't actually could use the thicker one for these centres. But I'm not spending too much time on it. Just a few seconds. Sometimes if you dither too much with this, you can make your card too soggy. But that's why I've used a thick card, because it takes the water a bit better. Okay. There we go. So that's all the centres done. I can do the bumblebee. Actually, naughty Julie, while you've got the brown ink on your brush, colour the spares that you did on the extra sheet of card for the ones that you potentially may be cutting out. Okay. There we go. Put those back to one side and then I can clean my brush. Squeeze the ink pad together to get some ink in it. Oops, I need to do that a bit better. And if it's too intense, squeeze your brush and get some water out. Okay, oh, that's very intense. Very yellow. And I'm purposely not going right to the edges. I mentioned on the other cards, I'm letting some of them have like little white tips. And some of them I might accidentally go over. Just be aware of where your leaves are rather than petals, because sometimes it's hard to, this stamp set's not too bad for that. Sometimes it's hard to differentiate between a petal and a leaf, but this image is really quite good for that. it's not too bad. And this one's a bit trickier because it's just a few little bits popping out there. I went over there, but never mind. Okay. I find this really quite therapeutic with the water pens because it's quicker than using the... I love the blends, don't get me wrong. I love my stamping blends and I love the look that they achieve. But I find if you want a quick colour, then the watercolouring is a bit quicker and a bit more forgiving, I suppose. Nearly there. There we go. And that matches up there. Yeah. Oh, look, I've missed a bit. I missed a bit of soft suede as well. You probably told me on the on the notes. Oh, and I need to colour those extras as well. So now I've gone back to the brown. I need to colour these extra spare ones in with the bumblebee. So again, I'm just doing the one card, but you have the supplies and the option. You don't have to do it in one sitting. What I'm finding is I'm giving you a bit more flexibility by doing double cards for you. And then you just, for my newer people, can just have a go at doing half and then half another time. Or you can do half how I've made them. And then if you feel confident, you can do your others slightly different. And that's what I'm trying to create, is sort of more independent crafters. Because at the moment we're all crafting independently. There we go. So we just need to do the old olive now. It doesn't really make a difference when you put the green on, it really lifts it. I may as well colour these spares. That looks quite dark, so I'd wash a little bit of the green off because it is quite dark. Old olive is one of the long-standing faithful colours. I think it was probably one of the first colours that I bought. First purchased Stampin' Up stuff in 2008. There we go. That's all done. Okay, now, confession time. Just going to have a drink, let you catch up as well a little bit. Confession time. I didn't use the sentiment from this stamp set when I made my cards, because I just dropped a stamp set. They didn't really fit. Now I could use the congratulations. In fact, I am going to use that one because it will fit. I used a birthday one. If you want to do birthday, then use it from another set. But I'm going to use the congratulations one on. It's probably a sentiment that you'd use for inside the card, but let's do it for the purpose of this video. Then I will do it on the outside of the card. Now I did pre-cut some die cuts, and I don't know where they've gone. I mean, I've got the smallest desk in the world, and I just lose stuff. Ah, they're here. So I've just cut. Oh, I've just gone and got ink on them, but we'll have to put a sunflower over that maybe. All right, never mind. Be careful with your stuff, not like me. Look, I've got yellow ink on my hand that I didn't realise was there. So do check your hands. Oh, that's a bit wonky, but never mind. We've got a little bit of yellow behind, but it's okay. It adds to it. Now, I've just done that whilst my painting was drying. I need to put my aqua brush away, but the lid came off. Oh, it's there. So we've done all our colouring so far. Now, if you want to, this is where you could do the flicking of the ink or the stamping of the you know, the speckles. That's the word I was looking for. And this is where you can run the pieces through the Big Shot or your die cutting machine, or the Boss in my house. So I'm just going to get my machine. You probably won't be able to get it all in the shot. Pieces, what I need. Start from this side so you can see. But because we've got two strips, you can do them both at once. Yeah. So you can put them in like that. And both at once. I do love the effect of that. It's been a very popular purchase for people as that embossing folder. Okay. So what we can do now is we can stick those onto our card. So they're going to go like that and like that, and then they meet there. Should have got my glue out. I tied it up after yesterday's video filming and didn't get everything back out. So make sure you stick this the right way up. Okay, now I haven't forgotten about the inside. So remember I said you needed there's one piece of thinner Whisper White. You can cut this down. I'm going to cut mine down now. And I'm going to cut it, just ignore mine, but I'm going to cut it 14 centimetres by 9.7, and I will type that up in the comments and you can write it down. And if you want to, you can choose to stamp something there, and I'm probably going to stamp the "Let's Celebrate You." So it's like, congratulations, da 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 da, and inside, "Let's celebrate you." Okay, but again, you could, "Let's Celebrate You" can be happy birthday. So if you put now I probably won't colour this inside one, because if I'm using the thinner white, then I probably won't colour inside. Just going to pop that in there. Got a little bit. I'm going to close that up. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take my die cuts and decide if I need a flower on the front, you know. If it looks a bit bare, then it might be nice to add a flower and a flower there. So I can add them. You don't have to. If you prefer not to, then don't add them. We've not really wasted. You can use them on another project. But when I cut these out, I leave a right little bit of white space around the edge. I don't know if you can see, but when I cut out, I'm actually moving the card a lot of the time rather than the scissors. Just manoeuvring the card a lot. Now, some of you have the dies for this set. I know that Mandy does, Vanessa, Maria, I think you have the dies. Donna, I think, I might have the dies. So if you do, you can use the dies for that. So I'm just going to look and see, do I need one? I don't even know if I actually need any on the card. I don't know if it makes it look a bit busy, and don't forget the ribbon's going to be there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my ribbon on, put my label on, and then decide. So I'm going to layer the white piece. Now, you don't have to have a border on these labels. So, like, for example, this one, I've done it just with a bigger white one. And if you do like these dies, I have used these loads in various projects, and they're called the Tasteful labels. And you can get every die on a sheet of A5 and roll them out. Okay, now this is where we need to pay attention. So once we've got everything inside as we want, now I probably would, if you know who you're going to send this card to now, I probably would write a greeting in there now. But if not, you'll just have to tie the ribbon again. What I'm going to do is, you have got, I think I gave you 2 meters of ribbon or 1.5 meters of ribbon, so you've plenty. I've got mine on the reel, but I've turned my project upside down because I find it works better. And I'm going to tie the ribbon at this side on the left, so it will be on the right when I turn it back. I'm just going to pull. This is my absolute favourite ribbon from the catalogue. So I've tied the first part like you start your shoelaces, and then I'm going to do my 2 loops, bunny ears, cross them over, push that one to the back and let the tail flick over and push it through the hole. Now I do have a video on this from quite a few years ago. So let's turn it back, and then we need to zhuzh. Now, the knot in the middle is really important. So if you get the knot tight in the middle, then that's good. So what I do is I just mess about. I plump these little loops up and put my finger in and pull them away from each other to make the knot really tight in the middle. I'm really happy with that now. So then I can trim off my excess, and I've not really had any waste. So if you had a full reel of ribbon rather than what you've got included in the class, then I would always do it, rather than cut your ribbon down, I would always do it attached to the reel. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip this die cut under, but I need to move my ribbon over a little bit. So it's going to sit like that. Now the key here is we only want to put glue on half of the die cut, because it's going to open and it's just going to be stuck to one side, yeah? So this, it's not going to be stuck down on the right, okay? Hope this makes sense. So we're going to turn it over, and we're only going to put glue here, just under halfway, because it can ooze and spread. So just like that. This is probably the most common mistake, is someone putting glue on the whole thing. And then we're going to press that down. Hold it down there with your scissors a bit. Just make sure it's sticking. Okay, and then it's not stuck down there. But we've also stuck it to the ribbon, so when we open it up, the ribbon won't, the ribbon's not attached to the back, but it is now going to be stuck under there a little bit. Okay. Now you can decide now if you want that extra flower. Now that you've made your card, do you want that one there? Do we need another one up there? What's it going to look like? I'm going to go for it. So I'll cut this one out, but again, you don't have to. Sometimes it does look too busy. Less it is more. Okay, now just to fathom this out, this is laid up on a foam pad. So if you're going to glue part of it to that bit there, you're going to have to wedge your foam pad under here to balance it out. Otherwise it'll be all lopsided. So we'll put a foam pad there and it balances it out. But maybe we just put a bit of glue here, like that, to catch it. And I've just tried to curl it up a little bit. Okay. And then again on this bit, if you want to put one there, same thing. You might actually be best just putting a couple of foam pads, depending on the angle of it, or just keep it stuck to this side. You don't want them across, obviously, because then they're going to be. So maybe I just put a right little bit of glue here. Oops. And then I've done 2 foam pads at the back. So it's rather busy now, that one, but just keep that held down a bit. And then I'll just move my paper to tidy up a little bit. So there's one of the Gatefold cards. Yep, And here are the 2 cards that I made. So I've done all my bumblebee ones, but you have the stuff to make everything again, just like that, but with the soft suede. So let me just zoom out so you will be able to do that. And then you will also be able to do that too. I'm just going to stand up and check you can see those. So there we go. So if you want to do them now, if you're in the zone, then you can obviously play back this video. You can rewind, and you can do your own designs. Go off piece. You could do a gatefold card using the big sunflower and split that down and see what that looks like. That'd be great to see. But yeah, please do send me pictures through of what you've made. I do really love to see what you've made, and I really appreciate you joining me for this video today and for this class, and I look forward to crafting with you again soon. Thank you. Bye.